Would you be interested in being able to create this kind of interactive activity for your students? Or maybe something like this. Or even like this. Now, in the past, this kind of thing would take hours to create or require specialist programming knowledge, or you'd have to pay fees to some subscription service that would enable you to do this. But nowadays, using AI, you're able to kind of code these activities yourself without any programming knowledge, and you can easily share them with your students for free. And in this video, I'll show you how you can do this. I'll show you how you can do it using free tools such as Gemini, ChatGPT, or Claude. I'll show you how you can share those with your students, and I'll also talk a little bit about what the kind of limitations are of being able to do this, and also some areas that you can explore for yourself in the future using AI to create your own activities. Okay, let's get started. All right, so I'm here in Gemini at the moment, and this is the free version. Okay, it's not paid, so everything you can do for free. Now, in these AI tools now, you can use something called Canvas. If you look down the bottom with Gemini, you can see there's a thing called Canvas. And when you click on that, this lets it know that you're looking for it to kind of code something. Now, as a very sort of simple example of how it can do this, I'm just going to put in a very simple prompt for it, where it says, create an activity for A2 level elementary students on how to use was or were correctly in sentences. It's very basic, not very detailed, but let's see what it does with that. Okay, it takes a little bit of time for it to work through the code. And again, you don't need to understand what all this means. It will show you the sort of output at the end. Okay, and here we have it now. This is the final version we can look at. And you can see was, were, practice, and then we can just click the correct answer. Okay, it says next sentence, were, next sentence, let's get one wrong. Okay, and it tells you that was wrong. Okay, it's giving you a score at the same time. So a nice kind of little interactive activity to help check their understanding. Now, obviously, we can give it further prompts to recreate the content in a way that is more suitable for what we're looking for. So, for example, I may want sort of all the sentences together rather than click through one by one so we can see them all in a row. Let me see if I can sort of ask it to do that. Okay, so I could put something like that. So put the sentences on one page in a line rather than individually and number them. And you can see it starts to redo the activity. Okay, and here it is. You can see now this is all down in one line so that everything can be done on one page. I mean, you may, for example, not want them to get feedback immediately, but they do all the activities and then ask for feedback at the end. You could just say, so I've put here, delay feedback until the end with a check button. Add that in. Again, it does all the sort of programming in the background. Okay, and here we are. Here's the final activity. You scroll down, again, you can see at the bottom now, there's just a check answers button rather than doing them individually. And so they then click them all and then they check the answers at the end. So you can make any adaptations you want to the activity to make it appropriate for you or your students or what you're looking for to do. All right. So you can do this in Gemini, but you can also do this, for example, in ChatGPT, if you've got access to that. And again, a similar thing, but rather than clicking on Canvas, I think if you look at the bottom, it says tools, and then you can click on what we call write or code. Okay, just click on that and you can see it pops up canvas. And again, I've added in our little description. We can then see how ChatGPT deals with this. Again, you can see it doing the coding. The only thing you have to be aware of here, to actually open it, you need to click in the little arrows in the corner, and then this will open it, and then you can preview it in the top right here where it says preview your output. We click preview. It will then give you the activity. Okay. And again, you could write to it again and prompt it again to make any changes to create it as one activity. And then we've got that preview there. We can do the same thing again with Claude. And in fact, I find from experience, Claude often creates the most sort of robust, interesting activities. There are some limitations on how many words you can put into the box. And we'll see what it comes up with here. Again, completely free. Let's see what this one comes up with. Okay, it took quite a while for it to create this, but you can see it's a lot more colorful and perhaps engaging than the other two that we saw. Okay, it even gives you the grammar rules at the beginning for using was and were, which is quite nice as well. So it's more perhaps visually interesting than the other two. Okay, you get it's nice correct and incorrect indications here. Okay, it even creates its own sort of drag and drop activity as well. So it created a kind of a right and wrong, and then it created a drag and drop, which didn't ask for, but it's great that it did that. Okay, so like I say, Claude is really, really good at creating this kind of activity. I think it's just that when you type into the box, there is a limit of how many words you can put in. As long as it's not too long, it should work fine. Okay, so we can create those. Obviously, the thing we want to do is to be able to share those with students. And again, with all of these tools, they normally allow you to create a link, which then can be shared with students. So for example, here with Claude, in the top right, you can see there's a button which says publish. I click this, and then it says, do you want to publish this artifact? And then it says publish and copy link. I click that. Okay, that's a copied link, and now that's public and anyone can access that. So if I wanted to share it with my students, I could then send that link on to them. I'll just go into a sort of private browser window or incognito window to ensure that what would the students see if they just sort of clicked on this particular link. So let me just paste that in. Okay, and you can see that's exactly what they see. It would just go straight to this, and then they could interact with that. Perfect. And it's the same for the other ones as well. So let's just go back to ChatGPT. And again, at the top there, can you see there's a little arrow button? It says share. You click that, it creates a link. Okay, click on the create link, and it's copy the link. And again, you can go and you can test that out in a private browser window. You can see that's there then for students to interact with. Gemini similar. There's a share button there. And then there's the link, and you can copy the link. The only thing about the Gemini versions are if you then go and just imagine they're clicking on it and going to a new browser window, it will normally ask them to kind of sign into Google. You can do it without signing in. You can just sort of continue, and then it will show them the activity. So I think if they already have a Gemini account or they've already got a Google account, it will just go straight to the activity. Another possible way that you can share this with students is through, for example, a QR code. And it's relatively easy to create that from any of these links. So again, if I just grab one of those links, copy the link, and if I just paste it in here for now, and then in your, if this is Google Chrome, for example, if you click on these three dots in the top right, go down to share, and right at the bottom, there's the option to create QR code, and it will generate a QR code. You could always just show this on the whiteboard for the students, or you could copy that QR code and share it with them in a different way. And then they could just use their mobile phones, for example, to take a picture of it to access the activity. Now, as I said, you can create these activities by interacting with the AI and asking follow-up questions. However, after a while, you might want to consider creating sort of a template which can be easily filled in the future, for example, for any maybe grammar activity that you want to do with your students. So, for example, I created this template here. Okay, this is where you've got the sort of the basic structure, and then the parts in bold you can replace with a specific bit of information, like the type of activity. So you could say create an interactive, and then you might want to say, well, okay, make it a matching activity. Okay, for English language learners at B2 level. So again, you can create a nice little template, maybe one for sort of grammar activities, one for vocabulary activities, one for reading, etc. And then you've got that to easily sort of adjust and then paste into the AI tool to create your activity. I'll try this. Okay, let's try this in Gemini. I've changed it actually to a fill the gap activity because I think that might work better. Okay, maybe believe. You can see we've got the nice activity here, and we have to type in the correct answer. There you go. Now, are there any sort of limitations to doing this? There's a couple of things you have to bear in mind. Firstly, it can't really save any of the students' responses. So when they do the activity, it's going a little bit into a vacuum. They do it, they get it right or wrong, but it's not saved anywhere for them. This isn't in their Google Classroom or Moodle or Blackboard or whatever. So it's just an activity for them to sort of engage with at the moment. But obviously the link is permanent. You can save that link and it's always available for them to access. You can't really use it on mobile devices in that, I don't know if you can't do the actual creation on the mobile device. Students can access the activities and interact with them on a mobile device, especially if you ask it to make it responsive for mobile phones. So that's another limitation. And like I said, particularly when using Claude, when I tried to paste in quite a large paragraph, it said I'd reached like a word limit. So you may have to sort of put in a bit of it and then add a bit more after each creation. All right, I hope that gives you an idea for how you might be able to create content for your students. I think it's a fabulous thing that you're able to do with this. You can even do it in real time in class. You do something in class, you look at a grammar point, something like that, and then you can quickly type in, create an activity, share it with the students, and you're ready to go. Obviously, I was focusing a little bit on grammar here, but this could be done with things like vocabulary and reading. There's a whole host of things that you could do. Obviously, you could add your own content into there, your own sentences that you want them to look at, your own reading text that you want to do, and it should be able to create content around there as well. I think this is going to enable teachers to be really creative and really sort of enhance their lessons with interesting, engaging, sort of interactive activities. And I think it's a whole new world for us to explore as teachers to make our lessons more fun for our students. Do let us know if you're able to create anything and share those in the comments. I'll put a link to the sort of the text template that I created in the description of the video. Hope you found that useful. I'll be doing more videos about using AI to create content coming up very soon. Bye-bye.